COVID-19, it seems like it's the only thing that people on the news, in our government, and anywhere on social media are talking about. But the impact of COVID-19 stretches far beyond just the medical community. It's impacting all of us and communities across the country, and it's certainly having an impact on the economy and on small business owners. What is the extent of that impact? Gordon Denlinger, former member of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives and the state director of the National Federation for Independent Business in Pennsylvania, will be joining us to break down those questions and more. That's all coming up right here, right now. I'm Sam Chen, and this is Face the Issues. Good evening and welcome to Face the Issues. I'm your host, Sam Chen. If you turned on your news lately or turned on your social media feed, you've probably been hit with one conversation point: COVID-19. But as we all know, COVID-19, the novel coronavirus, the impact of it reaches far beyond just the medical realm. And so in our mini-series here, Understanding COVID-19, we've been looking to explore the impact of this new virus on our lives and our communities. Tonight, I'm pleased to welcome to the program a friend of the show, Representative Gordon Denlinger, who serves as the Pennsylvania State Director for the National Federation of Independent Business. Gordon, welcome back to the program.
Sam, great to be with you.
Welcome back to the program. Not quite welcome back to the studio, but we could certainly hope for better days ahead.
Indeed, but good to join you virtually and your viewers.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for being here as always. Before we jump in, I was thinking this morning just the benefit it is of having friends of the show like yourself come back at a time like this, someone that our viewers have really grown to like and trust. So I appreciate what you're doing. I know you are fresh off the virtual Senate floor, so I appreciate you being here and joining us today.
Well, Sam, it's always a good dialogue, getting into the hot issues of our time, and certainly COVID-19 is the big one right now, and the impacts to small business are huge, and so it's a very timely topic, and looking forward to getting into some of the details with you.
Yeah, same here. Gordon, let's start, just from the very top. Statistically, and of course, we're recording this here on a Thursday. It is currently April 23rd, so a few days before our viewers are seeing this. But I want to say that just because things are changing almost every minute of every day. But as of today, over 26 million Americans throughout our country have applied for unemployment benefit compensation. 4.4 million were added to that number just the last week. If you look at the statistics on our businesses, most states have shut down non-essential businesses, things like theaters, gyms, restaurants. Tom Colicchio is a celebrity chef. In a recent interview, said he believes 75% of the restaurants shut down will not be able to open again after these shutdown orders are lifted. Most states have some kind of stay-at-home order in place. This is really becoming the new normal in our communities across Pennsylvania and across America. I want to start with the very, very high-level question. Looking at the business side of it, the economic side, the financial side, who is being impacted right now? Who is being hit the hardest due to these shutdowns?
Well, if you own a small business, it's you. Very much a personal issue. But by type of business, yeah, you highlighted the restaurant and lodging folks that are out there. This started rolling early on with the cancellation of any kind of group event, convention, those kinds of things. And then, in the personal space, events like weddings, other big family type gatherings, those were canceled immediately or progressively. So lots of difficulties in the restaurant, lodging, bar, that type of hospitality industry. And frankly, those are probably that's a longer road back because in a certain sense, those are discretionary dollars, and when you get a lot of people in a tighter confined space, like a stadium, like a convention, on an airplane, those are the things that we all as individuals kind of take a hard look at. Am I willing to risk myself, my family,
Sure.
to get to do that? So, that whole sector certainly has taken a hit. The 75% number strikes me maybe as a little high,
Mhm.
but he's in the industry, so only time will answer that. Because frankly, the duration of the virus, will there be other waves, is completely unknown at this point. So, but that's a hard hit area, no doubt.
Yeah, and I appreciate what you brought up there, Gordon. The idea that first of all, it is not just since the shutdown orders have been in place, the essential, non-essential business situation in different states, or where states have ordered these businesses down. But even before that, events were being canceled or postponed. So a lot of these businesses have been losing their essentially their business for weeks before the shutdown orders came in.
Well,
And the other point, go
yeah,
ahead.
I'll just add, NFIB, National Federation of Independent Business. We host a day on the Hill, sort of a
Mhm.
everybody come to Harrisburg and let's lobby, your legislator as a small business owner. Come in. We do, there's some hospitality involved in that. There's educational seminars, and then we all troop up to the Capitol. We had to cancel that probably a good month before the stay-at-home situation really hit because new folks, NFIB of New York, had the same event, and only half the people showed up.
Mm.
And people start self-selecting out of these situations.
Sure. And the other interesting thing that you brought there too was that with these large group gatherings, certainly there's a calculation not just on the government's part, but on our part as consumers. And also, you talk about a sporting event. Not only is the athletics team, do they make money off of it, but so do all the vendors that are involved with it. So this is, I guess, the impact of it spreads. It's not just big corporations, which sometimes is what it's made out to seem to be, but everyday people, like our families, people in the middle class, but in the lower class, across the board, are being impacted by this.
Well, you take the big music festivals, other big
Mhm.
type gatherings where you get a few thousand people maybe in a community. Wow, I mean the economic benefit to restaurants, lodging, and 15 other types of businesses out beyond that is just huge. So the multiplier effect, which flows in reverse when it gets canceled, then the damage or problem flows out through all those types of businesses. So yeah, it's not just the big name that we know in the middle. It's the ancillary or businesses all around events.
Sure. Gordon, let me ask you this. A lot of comparisons right now being made to 2008. Of course, that was the last great economic recession we faced. We had you on our program recently talking about economic outlook. Of course, at that point, I don't think you and I could have predicted this was going to occur. And there was already conversations we talked then about the economy is not as strong as it had been in the year or two previous. Is it trending toward recession? Maybe, maybe not. But certainly, there's some markers that we were looking out for. Where is the comparison right now in the middle of COVID-19, this pandemic? Is the comparison to 2008 premature? Is it similar? Is it different? How do you see that?
Yeah, good question. The thing that's so unique about where we are is how fast it all happened. When you
Mhm.
look at the markers of '08, of course, there was the mortgage bubble in the middle of that, but it took time for that to implode, unfold, and then that started to affect other industries beyond real estate. It moved into banking, other sectors, and so there was more, I guess you'd say, runway or road time for business owners to make adjustments. This came so
Sure.
fast, and certainly the governor's closure order. Um, within a span of 24 to 48 hours, businesses which were moving along very successfully were like in panic mode. And so,
Mhm.
our lives at NFIB became about just calls, emails, trying to like walk with people through really the worst of nightmares. And that is, Monday morning, I've got to go in and lay off all my people or
Sure.
I'm done. I have no revenue, nothing coming in the door and closure orders coming down from Governor Wolf and the Wolf
Mhm.
administration. So
Along those lines, go
yeah,
ahead. Sorry.
no, I just it was so fast. And in fact,
Mhm.
if you look at Pennsylvania, our story is unique because those unemployment filings that you mentioned, We
Mhm.
had the steepest up ramp of those filings because of the way the governor closed the state down. It was just boom, as opposed to other states which took more of a, a slanted line approach toward closures, a little more gradual that allowed for more adjustments. So,
Mhm.
so our ramp up on unemployment filings is the steepest in the nation.
Yeah. Along those lines, Gordon, let me ask you this. As director of FIB, I know you hear a lot from a lot of small business owners across the state. What are you hearing from them with regards to how they're doing financially? Obviously, their business are shut down right now, but that also, especially if you're a small business owner, that impacts your personal bottom line. How are they doing as far as that concern is concerned? What are their fears moving forward?
Well, Sam, it's a great question. Without injections of capital, and most of that is federal at this
Mhm.
point. Most business owners respond to the question with, we have about a month or maybe two that we can survive without a serious effort at relief. And of course, there has been a serious effort, the PPP or Paycheck Protection Program, which comes through the CARES Act. And I know we're going to get into that.
Mhm.
But without points of relief, a month to maybe two is as long as they can last. And that's about it.
Yeah. That's great insight. Gordon, last question quickly before we go to break. There's some confusion, I think, among what constitutes an essential versus a non essential business. Where's that dividing line when it comes to who can stay open and who can't?
Mhm. Yeah, the Wolf administration, through their Department of Community Economic Development, or DCED, formulated actually three different lists at the beginning of this. But we finally got to life-sustaining versus non-life sustaining,
Mhm.
and that list is out at the DCED website. But there's a lot of gray and a lot of nuance within businesses. And then there was a waiver process in the middle of all that. If a company thought, well, maybe we are, let's take a shot at trying to get a waiver. That
Mhm.
process broke down, quite frankly, and had to be suspended on April the 3rd.
Mhm.
So that process came to an end after 42,000 waiver applications were filed.
Wow.
Yeah, administratively, this has not been handled well. I will certainly give the governor and Secretary Levine some marks on the health side of the equation. I mean, I think their motives are the best, but on the business side, very little in the way of collaboration with small business owners and associations, stakeholders, if you will, in all of this. So some good marks on the health side, not so good on the economic side.
Sure, sure. Representative, thank you for that insight. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Face the Issues. Representative Denlinger joining us. Thank you again, Gordon, for your insights and for all that you're doing, especially during this difficult time amid the pandemic. So, I personally, I really appreciate it. I know our business owners across the state do as well. Let's move a little bit to the conversation here to the solution side of this. Certainly there's a debate right now that's not just in Pennsylvania, it's across our country. And the debate seems to be the tension between shutting down these businesses as, for a long time. Governor Cuomo of New York just announced May 15th is now their new date for reopening. Governor Wolf in Pennsylvania said May 8th, versus some states who are opening right now. So you look at the state of Georgia has opened their beaches. Or some states like the state of Iowa has chosen really not to shut down or do a stay at home at all. And the debate, if you're on social media, the debate is being framed as tyrants who hate liberty versus these just arrogant, self-centered individuals who want people to die. And there are certainly those, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick of Texas saying we could sacrifice a percentage of our population to reopen the economy. Certainly comments like that are out of line. They don't reflect, I don't think, the debate at all. But from where you sit as a former member of the legislature who now directly works and leads our small businesses, where do you see this debate right now, and why is it so important?
Yeah, it's a good question, Sam. And as you say, quotes like that from the Lieutenant Governor of Texas are not helpful. But some of this is regionalized in Pennsylvania. And as I'm talking to our small business owner members, I get a different tone from members in the southeastern part of the state and the northeastern, where those areas have been much more heavily affected. So even as business owners, they're pretty cautious about
Mhm.
saying, yeah, let's kind of take a free things up approach. Whereas you get to the western part of the state where there have been no, virtually no cases in a given county, or one,
Mhm.
maybe two, a different attitude. Their people are like, well, we're not that affected. We're not population dense. Couldn't we, free this up a little bit? The governor did take a step to move toward opening construction and virtual car sales, a few adjustments here recently. So those are helpful steps, provided everything's done following CDC guidance, which is safe distancing and sanitation. So yes, I mean, as far as NFIB, we view the COVID situation with seriousness, and we applaud the efforts at safety. Um, Ultimately, history will be the judge. Too
Mhm.
much, too little. We leave that to history to decide. But again, real people's lives are at stake here. So I think you just have to give the nod there. But as we start to think toward reopening, there's I think a county by county or regional approach to this. Let's lift it in the least affected areas, and then we'll move kind of across the state in that way.
And Gordon, let me ask you there. In the meantime, there has been, we see the fighting and the bickering. Obviously, if it bleeds, it leads, and so that's kind of the dramatic thing that we get to see. But there have been efforts, even bipartisan efforts, to at least provide some aid, some relief in the interim. Of course, the CARES Act. You mentioned the PPP earlier. The CARES Act, which came out of Congress. And also some efforts to alleviate some of the normal regulations surrounding unemployment benefit compensation. Talk to me about those efforts. What's the impact? Does something like the CARES Act and these small business loans, do they help? And how much of a help are they?
Yeah, they're the true lifeline. What we hear from our membership is they're working with their banks, their credit unions to do the application process.
Mhm.
And the federal government's put serious money in the mix. The first tranche of 349 billion, almost 350 billion, was expired. We're meeting here to tape this, anticipating that a second, even larger amount will be put in place for small business. So, the federal government, Trump administration, SBA, all have stepped forward to work on a bipartisan basis with the Democratic-led House and the Republican-led Senate,
Mhm.
pretty quickly move some major bills through. There will also be relief for hospitals, schools, other institutions. So yes, small businesses are working feverishly with their financial people, their banks and credit unions to get those funds in place. And we're hearing of many being funded. It's actually showing up in bank accounts.
Good.
Some being denied and having to rework through the process. So, a mix of reactions. And emotionally, if you get funded, you're like, wow, the life preserver just landed right in front of me here in this
Mhm.
ocean. If you get denied, you're like, oh my goodness, what on earth? What do we do? So the range of reactions to that. That said, the federal level has stepped up to the plate. State level as well. Although my deeper worry, having, as you mentioned, served in the state house, and I was as a CPA on the House Appropriations Committee for
Mhm.
8 budget cycles, is that Pennsylvania state government has a $5 billion hole blown in its budget as of now.
Right.
That's current year revenue that will not show up, and they're talking about 6 to 8 billion in the next fiscal year, which will start on July 1st. So,
Mhm.
appreciate the tweaks and adjustments in state law, delays of maybe tax filing deadlines, regulatory relief, good things like that. But as far as a big financial package from the state level, I think they have their own big problem to deal with, and
Mhm.
that's called they've had a hole blown in their budget. Big question whether the federal will step into the various states and provide some help on that front. It's possible, but there's some guarded approach toward that at the federal level.
Sure. And I think there's still this sense of we have to provide the aid that we can, but we don't forsake the tenets of the Constitution in doing so. And there's some tension in that realm as well. Uh, Gordon, let me ask you on addition to that, on this idea of unemployment compensation. In Pennsylvania, they suspended some of the normal regulations. You have to be looking for a new job, things like that, because these are people who have jobs, they just can't work them right now. But they've also added this weekly or biweekly $600 kind of cash assistance. Talk us through that. What's the impact of that? And is that something helpful and sustainable?
Well, I think as we look at it, that maybe was one of the missteps that was made down in Washington. And I know there were questions raised, but when the house is on fire, everybody grabbed a bucket and started,
Right.
throwing water on it. So I get that urgency, but yes, it's an extra $600 per week added on top of Pennsylvania's current up to 50% of your
Hmm.
your prior comp unemployment benefit. So it is taking some number of people well above their prior rate of comp, though they're on unemployment. And
Hmm.
so the question becomes, well, you've called me back to work, but you know what? I'm doing better now than I was before. So you know what? I don't think your store is safe, and I think I'm going to stay home. That's a genuine point of concern. I will say that that is raised with business owners to me and to elected officials routinely. What's up with that? And the response typically is, well, all the normal requirements to return to work still legally apply.
Hmm.
But I mean, amazingly, the governor was asked in a press conference, well, what about this issue? And his response was, well, I say this as a former small business owner. You just need to raise their pay to equalize it. Well, that's being very generous with other people's money, and it's other
Sure.
people who are maybe on the edge of bankruptcy right now. So I don't think it was a good Governor Wolf moment to take small business owners and, in essence, put them on the hook for even
Right.
more compensation when they're just trying to stay alive, trying
Right.
to survive. So that would there's legalities in what he said that are very concerning. Um, because if you're called back and you don't come, there is an element of fraud that enters into that
Sure.
equation. So anyway, we hope the governor will walk that back and correct it. That said, but the $600 added, it was generous in spirit, but in terms of the recovery, the reopening, we do view it as a problem. People are
Hmm.
really going to say, "I'm making out better on unemployment. I don't think I'm coming back."
Sure. So short-term gain, but potentially is hindering some of those reopening ideas.
Absolutely,
Um, yeah.
yes.
Gordon, thank you for that insight. Again, don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Face the Issues. Gordon, thank you again for your insights and your time today. We have about a little bit under 3 minutes left. I want to ask you about solutions. Obviously, we talked about what the government's doing, the CARES Act, unemployment. What are some other solutions for these small business owners or for regular Americans who lost their jobs? And what can we in the community do to help?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I'm very optimistic, quite frankly, Sam, that we're going to come back strong. It's a matter of following the guidelines through this kind of period,
Mhm.
but business owners should be planning. What will my store, my shop look like? So be putting in place your plans to reopen the doors, but to do so safely. And manage the finances very, very tightly and carefully, but reach out for the relief that's there. It's a government mandate that closed everything, so nothing you can do about that. Reach
Right.
out to the government for assistance. For the individual, yes, there's of course the unemployment provisions that are out there, but a lot of the help to businesses is to put people back on payroll. So stay in touch with your employer, learn what their plans are, and there can be points of relief even currently under the CARES Act. So dialogue between small business and employee is very essential at this point.
Yeah. Gordon, one of the things I appreciate about what you said earlier is that these are real people with real lives. And it's certainly a difficult situation. On the one hand, this is a real virus, it's a real pandemic. There are people dying of this illness. And on the other hand, we extend the shutdown too long. There are real lives and livelihoods that are going to be lost. What would you say quickly? What would you say to those people who are struggling through this on either end of that? What encouragement would you give them?
Yeah, well, I'm a person of faith, so that's always where I look to for my strength and encouragement. But stay in community, and that is, draw those loved ones close to you, be it at home or virtually. Be in touch with employer, with your community of faith, whatever that is. I just encourage that sort of personal strength that comes through family, through faith. That's really what I think can help people get through. And better days are coming, Sam. I am absolutely an optimist. We'll come through this and we'll be stronger than ever.
I agree. Representative Denlinger, thank you again for your time and for your insights. They're greatly appreciated. And to you and your family as well, stay healthy.
Sam, and to you.
Thank you. That is all the time that we have tonight. Thank you so much for joining us, and continue this conversation with us online. Just remember to use the hashtag #FaceTheIssues. My name is Sam Chen on behalf of all of us here at Face the Issues. Thank you and good night.